Great. Well, welcome everyone to the Cowichan Community Center commission meeting for May 13th, 2021. I first of all have to read this motion to allow the electronic meetings that pursuant to the ministerial order number M192 and the Cowichan Valley Regional District Restoration of Services Plan, the attendance of the public to the Cowichan Community Center commission meeting cannot be accommodated in accordance with the applicable requirements or recommendations under the Public Health Act because of the limitations on mass gatherings and the inability to provide for adequate physical distancing with a full commission, staff and members of the public present in the boardroom, and that the commission is ensuring openness, transparency, accessibility, and accountability for the meetings by 1, providing notice of the meeting, 2, making the meeting agenda as well as all the other relevant documents available on the CVRD website. 3, providing email notification of publication of agendas to subscribers. 4, archiving meeting video for future viewing by members of the public. And 5, continuing to investigate options to facilitate public participation. And that the Cowichan Community Center Commission meeting be held electronically and in the absence of the public in accordance with the ministerial order M192 and the CVRD Restoration of Services Plan for the duration of the Public Health Officer's order on mass gatherings, events, and provincial state of emergency made March 18th, 2020, and an extension of that declaration in effect. Thank you. And with that, I'm getting a little bit of feedback. Is that does everybody have their computers on mute? Allison, is yours on mute?
It looks like Director Nicholson is muted.
Okay. Thank you.
That motion, I think, needs to be moved, seconded, and carried.
Okay. Yeah. So I move that motion. Is there a seconder, Al? And a seconder, Rosalie? Director Sowry? All in favor? Opposed, if any? Thank you very much. Moving now to an approval of the agenda. Motion it's been moved. Second. All in favor? Opposed, if any? I'm assuming, Director Nicholson, that you will speak up if you are opposed.
Of course.
Okay, thank you. And adoption of the minutes from the December 10th, 2020 meeting. Moved. Second. All in favor? Any opposed? Motion's carried. Is there any business arising from the minutes? I don't believe there is. The public input period is missed with this time because we cannot do that. We'll go straight to reports. A verbal report from the General Manager of Community Services.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you to the Commission. There's not a lot on this agenda today, but we felt it was important still to have this because the one topic that I would like to bring up is the fact that we have a new manager of the Cowichan Community Center, Mr. Rob Williams. So before I say much about Rob, I just want to let everybody know that I've talked to Terry Askham a few times and she's doing well and sends her regards. Rob went through the process of posting and interviews toward the Cowichan Community Center manager's position. Obviously, he's an internal candidate that some of you have known from other positions in the organization before. Rob has been a programmer here at the Cowichan Community Center. He's taken other positions within the regional district, including in the environment and transit divisions, and he's gone off to some other locations that I'll let him speak about as he introduces himself. Rob came back to be our capital projects coordinator and has now moved on to being the Cowichan Community Center manager. So I'd like to thank Rob for taking on this position, and I'm going to turn it over to him to do a little bit better bio on himself. Thank you.
I'd also like to welcome Rob. My apologies. I should have done that at the beginning. And also at the very beginning, before that long, very speech, I'd like to acknowledge that this meeting is being held on the traditional territory of the Coast Salish people, which I had forgotten to address. So just to introduce that, and back to you, Rob.
Thanks, Lori. All right, I wrote a few notes on my bio. So John covered a little bit of it, but I'll go into a little bit more detail. So back in 2003, I completed my degree in recreation and then moved into a lifeguard position at the old pool. Shortly after that, I moved into a recreation programmer position within the center for about 6 or 7 years. By that point, I was looking to expand my horizons and kind of further my education, which pushed me into a master's in environmental management. And that led to holding positions in solid waste and transit services within the CBRD. I always had an interest to move up into a management role, and that came in 2012 and would actually turn into several opportunities over the past 8 years, including taking a position with the Sunshine Coast Regional District as their transportation manager, and then moving up to a senior regional manager position at BC Transit, and then to the general manager of community services position at the Alberni-Clayoquot Regional District. Cowichan Valley's always been home, actually Cowichan Bay, for Lori, and I've always had an interest in coming back to the CBRD, and like John said, that opportunity came last year with the capital projects, thanks to Jim for that, and now, moving up to this position. I've always had a passion for recreation, and I'm excited to be here working with everyone.
All right, well, we welcome you. Thank you very much for that intro. Now, with that, we are moving on now, I believe, to R2, which is a verbal report from Cowichan Community Center Division. That's Rob again, isn't it? So you're back on again.
Thanks. First, actually, I want to thank Micah and Janie Rigby for acting and keeping things running over the past couple of months, and the support during this transition. It's been great, and unfortunately, Jamie wasn't able to join us today, but he helped put the report together. So, programs and events update. We're continuing, obviously, to operate under the current restrictions. We are working with our security company to help restrict the traffic through the building to prevent COVID from spreading throughout the building. We're not able to operate events or hold events. There's no adult sport activities with the exception of pickleball. Fortunately, we are able to deliver some children and youth activities, including kinder gym, camps, and after-school programs. And we are currently planning for the upcoming summer and believe that should be just as successful as last year, even with the restrictions. On to the arena. We did have a successful winter season. Despite the restrictions and the modifications we had to do, many of the programs were at capacity. Now the ice is out and we're programming there. Cowichan Secondary is actually using the dry floor during the week for PE classes because they can't use the multi-purpose hall. And we have a couple of pickleball courts in there available for booking. On to facility rentals. We can only provide those for critical services such as blood donor clinics or other agencies that fit that definition. With the vaccination center, things are going well there. It's getting busier, as you may observe going by. We're averaging about 600 clients a day, and we're expecting that to maintain or get busier with the coming days and weeks. We did have a power outage yesterday that you may be aware of, so that put a bit of a crinkle into operations, but we were able to shift things around and keep the clinic going, thankfully. And we have received some positive feedback from Island Health on the service that our staff is providing, and they're very grateful and appreciative of that. The Susan Down from the Arts Councils reached out, and they are planning a new flooring project. I have limited information at this point, so we'll report back later on that. And lastly, land use services. The CBRD's land use services is operating out of the center right now due to the water leak, and I believe everything is going smoothly. They're using some office space in the admin area, a classroom, and down at the ticket center. And that concludes their report.
Thank you very much. Are there any questions for Rob? Go ahead, Kirsten.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Do we know what the power outage was caused by? Just curious.
I don't have any further details other than it was pretty widespread. I believe there was over 2,000 customers out. And I think Island Health obviously has some pull with the vaccination center and made some quick calls, and it was back on within like an hour.
Okay, seeing no other hands for questions, we can move on to R3, I believe. So it's R3 is a report from the facilities coordinator. Go ahead.
Hey, hi all. Nice to see everybody again. So this pandemic has kind of been a little bit of a blessing in disguise for our operations staff that we've been able to get into a lot of areas we can't normally get into and do some work. Especially, the age of the building with some of these floors. The Heritage Hall, we managed to get that floor finished, so we just buttoned that one up last week. That was a project that was pushed from 2 years ago. That's complete. It looks great. Came in well. And then with the vaccination clinic, that floor is also slated to be replaced this year. Now that the clinic's in there, it's going to be very tough to get done this year. We have a small window from about November to December. Possibility we may have to push those funds into 2022, but we'll see how we'll try and have it all lined up if it works. Our ice plant's down. We're back into dry floor, as Rob said. We have done some pickleball lines out on the floor, which we've never done before. So see how that goes. The true test for us is the new fans we put in. I was really hoping for something like a graduation or something where we really get a big crowd in there and people feel the heat, and we want to turn these fans on and wow them. But from what I hear from staff and a few programs that are going on the floor, we haven't had the hot weather, but they really do like the airflow, which is, I think they're going to work out well. What else did I have here? Kirsten's seen them. We've managed to get into some dressing rooms and finished floorings that normally we wouldn't have gotten into. She's got such a busy department. It was always, can we have half an hour a day here, a day there? But we've managed to get a lot of those floors and countertops redone. So that all looks really well and ready to go for when things start picking up. Last but not least, I don't know if you all remember when we used to walk up the stairs to the boardroom, our skylights over the years have had some issues, some small leaks. I looked at replacing them. It was going to be about a $10,000 fix. I talked to staff, and really we came down to the fact that the skylights really weren't useful. They let a little bit of natural light in, but we roofed over it, and we did that ceiling in a nice pine, did a lot of nice LED light upgrades, and I think it's a huge improvement to that area. Because most of the events that were in the theater in the evening, so the natural light really didn't play much part in that space. So that's taken care of, and I think it all came in for around $4,000 instead of $10,000 fix. So should do that operating. That's about it. We lots of other little things, but you'll see as you come to the center in the future, and you'll see lots of little improvements we've done. Any questions?
Awesome. Thank you so much. You had a lot of hand clapping there that was making me chuckle.
It's Kirsten, I think.
Yeah. Surprisingly, it was. Yeah. Are there any questions for Brad? Great work. Lots of stuff still happening, even though we're all locked up in our isolation. So we really appreciate that.
Yeah,
I mean, there isn't oftentimes you can't get into, like you say, that's half hour here, half hour there, and you're able to complete work. And that's really impressive.
Yeah, it's been great.
Anybody else? Not seeing any hands, only the hand clapping. Thank you so much, Brad. Moving on now to R4, which is the hand clapper, a verbal report from the manager of Arts and Culture Division.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I was trying to turn the hand clapping off, but then it came on again. There's lots to applaud on that Brad's done over the last 18 months or whatever it's been. So you probably heard already that Brad and his team replaced all the carpet in the egress corridors as well. And the quiet room carpet's been done. I think you painted the control booth, Brad. Did you also paint the floor yet, or is that still on the horizon? I mean, they've done a lot of really great projects.
Yeah, no, it's the theater is pretty much complete except for that little HVAC project we talked about. So
yeah, it's looking fantastic. So we're so grateful for all that work that you've done. And yes, I mean, we are officially operating, although there isn't a lot of evidence of that. We're doing what we can within the limitations. We are doing recordings and live streams in the theater as well as offsite. Every Sunday, you may be aware of, we live stream, our theater technicians live stream at the Duncan United Church. And that's been going on for many months. It started last year, and we are going to continue through to the end of June. The church has purchased their own equipment through a grant that we help them conceive of, and we're going to train them on it and get them all set up to take it on themselves is the goal. So that's been a partnership that's been really good for our technicians too. We also plan to continue our recordings and our live streamings without audiences, of course, in the theater for the rest of 2021. If we're able to, which it seems like we are hopeful that in the fall, we'll be able to have small audiences back in the theater, probably up to 50 people. We're expecting, we're not, contrary to what you might hear out there in the media, that concerts are being booked in Vancouver, and there's quite a bit of conflicting information out there, but I'm on a task force, a BC task force that meets with Dr. Henry. And what she has told us is that she does not expect any large gatherings for the remainder of 2021. And theaters are legally categorized by the PHO as large gatherings. We're not in the category of business, which some of the people in the task force have been trying to change, because if we were categorized as businesses, we would be able to reopen, and we would have to do so safely. Many people on our task force believe that we could reopen with up to 50 people now. With 8 doors in and out of the theater house, we certainly would be able to space people out, and people would enter and exit from different locations, but that's not what the PHO wants. We are in the large gatherings category. We can't shift out of that category. And so we will be, among the very last in our society to reopen, like, like the big arenas and like large, other large festivals and things. So we are really gaining from these meetings though, because as much as Dr. Henry is an avid art supporter herself, she goes to lots of events. She's a subscriber. She has said publicly she believes the arts should be declared an essential service, like they have in some countries. She has, however, does not have all the details and the back end information of how we operate and how much lead time we will need in order to reopen fully. We've been explaining that to her. It's been a really good working partnership so that she understands that, we have to, in order for us to get operating again, we've got to bring the ushers back. We've got to find new bartenders. We're not ready to open at the drop of a hat, and finding the programming as well takes a bit of time. So it's been good. And those meetings are happening about every 2 months right now. So that's been useful. We also, I don't know if the last time we talked, if we had received the BC Arts Council equipment grant. I know the chair knows that because you've been CC'd on some of those grant emails. We were very pleased to get that. It was a competitive grant, and it has provided us a series of equipment pieces that have filled in the gaps in our live streaming equipment, our editing equipment that we need, our cameras for recording, but also we are repurposing the old TV studio to be a new media studio, which will eventually, once COVID permits, be available to rent for classes, for training, for students and various people in the community, as well as to rent with, there'll be a green screen and updated video equipment and editing equipment that professionals have already expressed an interest in renting, because local professionals now need to go to Victoria for those services. So we will be, I think, it'll be a pretty attractive little venue. And as you know, it's been sitting empty for decades, I think, and it's just a sort of an overflow area for the stage and has been used for storage. So we're going to repurpose that, and we'll work on getting the HVAC upgraded with Brad. That's on his radar probably for 2022. So that's an exciting thing that we've been supported by the BC Arts Council to afford. The other grant that we received on the arts and culture side, but it does impact the theater, is that we have received a Canada Council grant for digital literacy workshops. And so we are providing workshops for the arts community in everything digital that they might need to know. And those are actually filling up really fast. And so we're putting second ones now, we're going to put third ones on, and that's going to be a series that we'll continue to produce for the rest of the year. And we have two more grants that we're waiting to hear from. One is a artist programming grant. It was only one of 2 arts programming grants that we've been eligible for as a civic theater. We have been eligible for almost all of the arts funding that's been promoted out there. But this one is to pay artist fees and to bring technicians back to pay their fees. And it would be very helpful, obviously, in the absence of ticket revenue. It's really, we don't break even on any of these shows that we're producing, yet we still do need to keep artists employed. So we're really hoping to hear about that grant. We'll hear in July. And then the other grant we're waiting for is one that Rob wrote in his previous position, and it's a big one. It's the whole lobby renovation. Well, it's a bundle, but the theater's portion is a lobby renovation with larger and fully wheelchair accessible washrooms, which we've never had before in the theater, as well as 100 new seats. And we have to, in order to enlarge the washrooms, we would move the concession and make that a more usable space. And it also takes into effect that the traffic flow in and out of the lobby has to change now, right? We're all talking about how things are going to have to change after COVID. The expectation is going to be that the people coming into the lobby are not going to want to bump into the people waiting in line for the concession, and then the people going into the washroom, and that line is going to be, no longer able to mix, and then the people going into the theater. There were 4 different streams of traffic that were converging, which used to be fun, but it's not going to be considered fun anymore. It's going to be considered unsafe and, worrying for people. So this, if we get that, it will really help us direct that traffic flow into entirely different areas, which will help us ensure our patrons that we are a safe facility that they can come to in the future. We will be doing the Islands Folk Festival live streaming again this summer. We did it from Providence Farm last year, and that's this year again on July 25th. I've also got a few other outdoor live events that we're hoping we'll be able to do. With the PHO's approval, we will invite small audiences if possible. If not, we might just do the live streaming, but that's going to be great. And it also provides some work for our technicians, which is much needed. We do have IATC staff who remain on layoff, and we are approaching their 12-month period where they will have been laid off for 12 months, which does affect their status with the organization. So I am in contact with the union about that and what that means going forward. And the other thing I'll mention is that the Duncan First Nations Court has moved to renting the rehearsal hall and the theater dressing rooms downstairs on the main floor once a month, although they did cancel for April. But we do have a booking in May and every month going forward to the end of the year. So that's something that just brings in a little bit of money, and they like the contained, secure area that we can offer. So they're pleased with that. That's it for me.
Wow, that's a lot.
Was it a lot?
No, that's good. Yeah, I mean, we haven't really caught up in a while, and it's surprising, even though a lot of us think that we're like, there's not a lot happening, like the same with Brad. There's a lot of, it's just different, and there's a lot that's happening. And the one question that I would have is I worry about the staff. So the staff that's laid off now for 12 months, what happens? Like, that's what you're checking into.
Yes, that's exactly right. Of course, when we have a temporary COVID agreement with IATC, but when we signed that agreement, which just allowed us to do things a little bit differently with fewer staff, to save on costs and things, we weren't expecting that we were going to be in, 2 years of this. So we do need to continue to talk with them about that. our business model is going to shift at the theater. Our need for some services is going to be less when we start to reopen slowly than for other services. We've noticed that, our need for digital programming and the digital skills has really increased, but our need for ticketing is pretty much non-existent, right? So it's going to be an interesting experience where we determine where we need to go next. And I think it'll take a few years for us to build back to where we were in 2019, to be honest. And that's in agreement with the other theaters that I meet with every week. We meet either on an island level, a provincial level, or a national level. We meet every 2 weeks. So we're trying to stay consistent, but of course, when you get to the national level, some theaters are talking about reopening, others are talking about not reopening in the fall, and it's not consistent. But we want to make sure that we in BC are consistent for many reasons, obviously. So yeah, there's no question that this has definitely impacted staff. There's no question.
Has there been any provincial support at all? It's because like that our staff, it's because they work for local government. Was that the issue? So there is no provincial, they weren't eligible.
That's right. We aren't eligible to apply for the wage subsidy, which has kept the other nonprofit theaters afloat, and most of them haven't laid off any staff except for, maybe a couple of bartenders or casuals. They've kept all their regular staff, and they have also been swimming in grant money. I'm not exaggerating. For 2020, many of them, including on the island, posted surpluses in excess of $300,000, $400,000 because they are getting so many grants, but they can't really do a lot and spend that money. So as you know, I'm speaking out because I think that there needs to be awareness at every level about how there's a very unequal playing field that has been established. And so it's part of our challenge now is to stay current and relevant, but within our restricted means. So we've retained as many staff as we can. And we did bring back one full-time assistant technical director who we were going to lose to the film business. He was going to have to move off island, and he's very needed, has all the digital skills that we need, all the live streaming skills. So we brought back Dan Pedlow.
Right. I have, John, you have something to add.
Yeah, I do, Madam Chair. Thank you. And Kirsten's exactly right around the staffing compensation that we were not able to access, but the COVID-19 restart funding that municipalities and regional districts received. Just want to bring to everyone's attention that a great bulk of the funding we received has been allocated to recreation and arts and culture, especially since the programs and performances were subject to refunds. And so that's where a bulk of that funding has gone.
Great. Are there any other questions for Kirsten? Seeing none, thank you very much. Now we have R5, I believe. It's you, John? Who's doing R5? It's the Sports Tourism Event Grant Subcommittee.
Madam Chair, I'll let Rob Williams introduce it and I'll fill in any gaps. So.
Okay, sure. Okay. Go ahead, Rob.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So essentially, there's a vacancy on the Sport and Event Grants Subcommittee. The member from the commission, Tom Duncan, has stepped down. And so we're looking for the commission to appoint another member if they wish. Knowing that you're already on the committee, and same with Councillor Manhans.
Right. So do we need, go ahead, John.
Just to sell this, because I think it's a fairly important committee. So this is a subcommittee of community services that gives out grants to sport organizations around the region, $15,000 per intake, so a total of $30,000 per year. It's only two meetings per year, one in the spring, one in the fall, to decide how we're going to allocate those grants. And so as Rob has referred to, it's typically 5 members on that committee, one representing Ladysmith Parks and Recreation, one representing North Cowichan, which is Mr. Manhas, South Cowichan, which is Lori. Out in the Cowichan Lake area, we have Rocky Wise, and we'd be looking for a replacement for the Cowichan Community Center Commission.
Oh, is there anybody that's willing to sit on from this commission?
What happened to Councillor Duncan?
I think he just declined.
Yeah, I don't believe we actually got a reason. If there's no person that steps forward today, we can bring this forward again. The next meeting is not until the fall.
If it's only 2 meetings a year, I'd volunteer to step up, but it better only be 2 meetings a year because I got enough.
It is well organized meetings, I must say.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay, and
Yeah,
then
sure.
Rosalie, you're on mute. The
We're
word
both
of the year.
I was just going to say, we're both from North Cowichan and we already have North Cowichan representation. So if you want to try someone from Duncan, I'm cool with that, but I'm also willing to put my name in the hat as well.
Okay.
But I won't try to beat out Mayor Al Sieber.
You know what? Fine. You could have. I just didn't see anybody else stepping up. So if you'd like it, go ahead. I mean, but you're not there for North Cowichan. You're there for the commission. That's the distinction, right?
So Rosalie, you'd like to take that on then? You're gonna arm wrestle with Al. Okay, Rosalie wins. All right. Well, thank you very much for stepping up, and thank you very much, Al, for considering it. Your agenda is pretty full too.
Do you need a motion to formally appoint?
Okay. Yeah, we do. I'm seeing heads bobbing. So moved.
I'll move it.
Is there a seconder? It's only, yeah, okay. Yeah, you can second. All in favor? Opposed, if any? Motion's carried. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Rosalie.
Yeah. Okay, and now that brings us to adjournment. I'd like to thank everyone. Nice seeing everybody, and nice meeting Micah. Nice to meet you. And thanks again, Rob. And stay safe, everyone. And it's looking like the future is going to be good if there's so many people heading into the community center for their vaccinations. Have a good one. Well, motion to adjourn. Been moved. Second. All in favor? Any opposed? Motion's carried. Thank you very much, everyone.
Thanks.
Great job, everybody. Awesome work. Nice to see you.
Nice to see you all.